Well, to get back to that Sunday afternoon now.
Oh, yeah. Big deal.
So,
So I went to work.
what did you think of this nice-looking fellow that was there at Malloy's
Oh,
that
well,
day?
I was getting to the age where I wasn't thinking very strongly about anything in particular.
You said you thought you were going to be an old maid.
Yeah, I think my mother was more anxious than I was.
Well, so did he say much to you that day?
No, we were just introduced, and then Merle and I went on home about our business. And during the week, I wasn't excited, but my mother called me. You got a letter. Well, I said, open it. And he wanted to call on me. Okay. That was it. And so I had to answer it, of course. Well, Mother knew the family from way back when, but I, of course, didn't.
Oh, that reminds me of another story.
Oh, it does?
Yes, when you said when your mother was a little girl.
Oh, yes. That's right.
What happened?
My grandfather and grandmother and, well, they had quite a family.
This was the Quinnettes?
They were, yeah, that was Grandpa Quinnette. And they were going to a picnic, not too far from Wayside, I guess. And in those days, they used to have what they called a light wagon. It wasn't a real heavy wagon. It had like buggy wheels, and they could take their cans of milk to the cheese factory on that light wagon, and it wasn't such a load. And then, when you wanted to go to church, you put seats on that the family could sit in. And they had quite a family. I don't know. They had 8 children that lived, and then 2 that died, younger. But anyway, they were coming down the hill toward Wayside, and something happened, and my mother was sitting in the back seat, and the horses must have gotten frightened of something, and they jumped, and the seat and whoever was with her fell off, and she was knocked unconscious. Well, it was right in front of the house that I lived in.
The house that...
And that was, my mother was just a little girl. She was born in 72, I think, 1872. And she was just a matter of a few years old. And Aunt Mary Martin was Aunt Mary Gibbons. That's where you got your name. And she was a young lady, older than Mother. You know, she was old enough to be able to carry a child. Carried her and put her upstairs in the front room, in the bed upstairs. And Mother woke up. And I can remember as you know, she said, I thought I was in heaven.
Was the house new then?
The house was new. That's how old that house is.
This is the homestead, the Gibbons homestead.
That's right. And they had those rings in the ceiling, remember?
Yes.
That one upstairs is still there, but Don took the one Mary Ann wanted it out. I don't think I would have left it there. I left mine. I left it in the downstairs room. But
I remember that big wooden, or was it plaster?
it was plaster.
Plaster, but it looked like wood, like
Yeah,
a wooden molding.
Molded.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she knew the Gibbons family, of course, then they went to the same church.
Oh, they did?
Sure, Morrison. And my mother could remember, well, of course, sure, they were, how old was I then? I don't know. I must have been an infant. Because her mother, Daddy's mother died when Florence was 13 months old. And nobody knew, well, they didn't have telephones, they didn't have TV, certainly, or anything else then. And when they got to church on Sunday morning, here was this funeral coming down the hill from Morrison. And that was the mother. 36 years old. Keratinitis. They didn't know enough to operate. She had a ruptured appendix, and that's what happened.
But isn't that a strange coincidence that your mother was in that house?
Yeah.
So that's why she was really all for this idea.
Oh, yeah. Well, she knew the family.
Of you and Bill getting together.
Knew them better than I did. Young people together.
So did she open the letter to get back to the letter?
I told her. Yes, I told her to open the letter and see what was in it. Well, she read it to me then. So I said, "Oh, you'll have to answer."
And did you?
Well, sure. Well, you do what your mother tells you to. Don't you, Kathy?
So then, did he come to see you? Come to call on you?
Well, yes. We had a couple of dates, I guess. That's about it.
2 dates. And then what?
And then he asked me to marry him. Well, I said, I'll think it over. And then when I told my mother, "Oh, well, I guess you will." I said, "Did you think she was trying to get rid of me?" and so then I set a date. Okay, I wanted to be married on my parents' wedding day. And that was in November. "Well, no, you're not going to leave that man out there all by himself for 3 or 4 months, for heaven's sakes."
Was
So,
his mother already, for his stepmother?
the stepmother had died in July.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathryn, of course, had been there during the summer. She always spent her summers with them, her 2 boys, and she.
Was that when John was playing
John was
ball?
on a ball team going all over the country, and she'd be alone in St. Paul, so she would spend the summer on the farm with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but then when school started, she had to go back.
She had to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
So 1st of September, she had to be back home. So that my mother said, no. She set the date, too. I was very
So you were married on the 3rd
Yeah, that's right.
of September.
3rd of September.
And now tell about your dress.
My dress, well, I didn't want, I was getting kind of old for a splurgy wedding dress. And I didn't.
How old were you?
26. What's the matter, Kathy?
Never mind.
I'm not 26 yet.
Getting there.
It's okay.
So
And,
anyway.
So Aunt Cal and my mother and I went looking for a wedding dress. Well, it was a tan. It was good material. It was really a nice dress. But I thought it was way too much money because I didn't have that.
Silk?
Yeah, and it was a heavier, it wasn't a flimsy silk. No. I don't have any sample of it because my mother dyed it, and I wanted it dyed. Because in those days you couldn't have change of color, easy. Only I dyed. So she dyed it. But I should have left it the way it was, because it was I could wear it now, very easily, as far as style is concerned. There's a straight skirt, and then a blouse on the top of it, and a jacket, over it. And it's a kind of a suit, and a tan hat and tan shoes, and that was it.
And you paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah, I paid $55 for the dress, heaven's sakes. That was a lot of money. Well, Aunt Cal said, you're never going to be married again, so you're going to buy that dress. I had the two old ladies taking care of me. Oh, well, I obeyed.
Okay.